125 cranes tower over Dublin, 78 of them in areas controlled by Dublin City Council. Each crane has a different purpose. Some are renovating buildings, while others look to replace local heritage sites with new blocks. Many are constructing commercial offices for companies looking to relocate here.
When you look at the construction that's going on, most of it is the high-end offices, large offices. It is, as I said, hotels, these short stay apart hotels, tourism ones. It is not affordable homes, and it's not homes that people can buy, that people can live in terms of see a future long term for themselves. And so the government has got this policy all wrong, and there's an acknowledgement of this by Dublin City Council. Their new development plan proposes that 40% of all large-scale developments should be for sale to homeowners, to people who need to buy a home. And they're trying to oppose the build-to-rent domination, which is basically what's happened now in Dublin. Most of the residential building that's going on in the Dublin city area is built to rent by investment funds, by institutional investor landlords. They're not homes for people, they're not affordable, they're not sustainable, they don't create communities. And I think that it's deeply worrying. They don't have, huge green spaces, huge communal spaces. I think things like swimming pools. We don't build swimming pools, community swimming pools. Where are the spaces where people can actually live in this city?
This is one of Dublin's well-known cultural hotspots and sits in the middle of three famous historical pubs. A developer received approval from Dublin City Council to extend the capacity of a neighbouring hotel from 214 to 303 rooms, meaning it will be demolished. In protest, local resident Sean Donoghue started a petition to prevent the demolition of a pub garden which is well known to Dubliners and tourists alike.
Wouldn't be me local, I wouldn't come here all the time, but it's the times I have been here, I've got such great memories. I remember it was 2018 during the World Cup. I have no interest in sports, but I just remember being out here, a lovely sunny day, watching it was a Germany versus Korea match, I think, and just the crowd from the three different pubs, the atmosphere was fantastic, and just there's not a lot of spaces left like that, especially to this size, in Dublin city centre, I would have been coming here since I was about, when I was 16, Fibber McGee's used to do these kind of underage gigs. And then from then, it kind of my friends would be performing here, we get a bit older, and just it is a good spot. And
I think the city it's clear it's losing its architectural heritage, its built environment, its scale. Dublin, Frank MacDonald writes about this. Dublin is about scale, which means that Dublin is about the small, medium size it is. It's a small city. And so, people know, I've lived in this city for, over 20 years. It's a city where you can meet people, past them on the street. It's a city where, the size of the buildings, the old, Georgian heritage, these matter to us. The streetscape matters, the way we look around, the way we interact.
And I've noticed the difference. I used to kind of love going into Dublin. You'd see some real characters, the women on Grafton Street who are selling the flowers, and yet they're the same people that work in the city, are kind of the lifeblood of it, but cannot afford to live in the city anymore because, it's all hotels, it's all, the IC corner where, lovely glass buildings, but there's got no character, no personality anymore. And it's gentrification. I think it's a result of they're applying a business model to Dublin, instead of it being a place that, is full of culture and character. And that is a result of the rental and housing crisis. People can't afford to live, they're being pushed out to the suburbs, and the city then just becomes pretty to look at with glass windows, but there's not much behind it then,
If we look at how Dublin has been reshaped or rebuilt over the last decade, it has been a travesty in many ways, that we there was an agency set up by the state called NAMA, the National Asset Management Agency, which had significant land banks in Dublin and still does. And it went about from kind of 2012, 2013 onwards. It went about trying to use its land to essentially attract in investor funds and investment. And the problem was the way it went about this was essentially, rather than using its land to build affordable housing, spaces for arts, spaces for small businesses, the whole strategy, along with government strategy, has been about trying to get in big tech companies, which obviously there's a need for that and there's a space to that, but it has been at the complete exclusion of small, medium businesses, local enterprises, and affordable housing.
Pharmaceutical and technological companies continue to expand their businesses in cities like Cork and Dublin, particularly after Brexit. In its March report, EY's Financial Services Brexit Tracker found that since the referendum, Dublin is the most popular destination for staff relocations and for new European hubs and offices. 36 financial services firms have announced their intentions to relocate their UK operations and staff to Ireland's capital. As those announcements are made, and as government takes credit for Ireland being a country where businesses can thrive, housing is failing Ireland's current and forthcoming residents. According to new figures from the Department of Housing, Ireland faces a crisis that has seen 10,325 people registered as homeless. The reality is that number underestimates the amount of people on Irish streets. We met Mohamed Mahmoud, who works for a tech company. For the past 4 months, he has been trying to find a home for his family, who he has been separate from for 3 years.
Now I'm in a position to bring my family to stay with me here in Ireland. However, I'm in the journey of finding a proper place to accommodate my family. The journey to find a place, or the opportunity, the chance to find a place, is not that easy. I have like loads of messages to send to landlords and agencies to find a place. The response is very, very, very small, very little response to get from them, like maybe 2-3 responses.
Like, of how many? Round how many?
As I said, loads of emails sent to the. It's uncountable, to be honest. If I say hundreds, I will be. I will not be like overcounting. It's like more than 100. The response is very little, very, very little. I think it's a nightmare to find a proper place to get your family to live with you. I work full time, so there is no point to apply for help. Yeah, I can't financially afford the pay. Yeah. So will I come tomorrow, please? Yeah, can we confirm that? After lunchtime, like half 2, would be okay.
What happens is that essentially government created this as a new form of social housing, and the problem is that it's dependent on private landlords, and landlords decide, I don't want a tenant, I don't like the look of you, and so there's a lot of discrimination going on of tenants, particularly those from migrants' background, travellers, lone parents, even families find it very hard because the landlord doesn't want the hassle of having children in the place. So families who are entitled to have HAP can't find anywhere to rent. And what happened as well is that this is, again, comes back to my argument that when you hand housing to the private market, a landlord, the majority of landlords, reality is they just want their rent, and they feel, well, I'm more guaranteed and I won't have issues if I rent it to a professional. Whereas there's a prejudice, there's a stigma, there is a, there is a discrimination going on. The research has shown this.
I mean, the chances to find a job is fine. There are many opportunities in many industries, IT industry, tech industry, finance, banking, hospitality. Many opportunity to find a job when you are eligible to be a full-time employee. You will easily find a job, but to find a place to stay, even outside Dublin, I'd say it's a nightmare. In the time being, it is nightmare.
The Department of Housing responded to inquiries from the Irish Mirror with regard to the rental situation in Ireland. The government acknowledges rents are very high. The most effective way to assist renters in the medium to long term is to increase supply and accelerate delivery of housing for the private and social rental sectors, and we are seeing signs of increased construction activity, which should lead to increased supply of housing, which is critical to making rents more affordable. As well as tackling pressures in the rental market in the short term, Housing for All also addresses the issue of longer term supply needs. The plan clearly sets out how an average of 33,000 homes will be built per year to 2030. This includes 9,000 social homes in 2022. Increasing our social housing stock will reduce the demand on our private rental market, as we currently rely on our rental market to house those that are on social housing waiting lists.